Before I could get started on the diorama, I needed to actually finish my cat figure. So I grabbed some blue Citadel paint and I mixed it in with a little bit of white to add that baby blue color that cat's armor actually looks like. Once that was done, I started applying it onto the armor itself. I also did a black coat on the actual suit itself, the armor suit. I started to add a bunch of small little details to this cat figure. I wanted to do something that I've never really done before with figures and try to make them as realistic to the game as possible. I feel like as my painting gets better and my skills continue to grow, the overall video quality and everything you see in my videos will continue to get better. I want my figures to really stand out and look special and be cool and have so many other details that a lot of other figures don't have. Moving on to one of my favorite materials, styrofoam, I needed to make a diorama for this cat figure. I had an idea that she was getting blown up and thrown up into the sky, so I wanted to start this out by making a crater in the middle where this explosion would actually happen. So I cut a little hole out in the middle and beveled the edges. Once that was finished, I started to work on a wall that was going to be in just kind of the remains around the field itself. Making it have a little bit more of an old story to it by adding this wall was pretty cool, and honestly it just spruced up the area a lot. Making a wall is pretty easy as long as you have a sharp knife and a pencil and a ruler. I started by scoring all of the areas with my sharp knife where the brick line was going to go, and then I hit it with more individual brick sections with my knife as well. Once that was done, I also hit it with a tinfoil ball to add a lot of texture and grooves. Now this tinfoil ball is a little worn out and you can add more tinfoil to it to have better texture, but it still works just fine. Once that was done, I took a pencil and I started to retrace over all those lines, hitting it 1 or 2 times in each individual line to really add more depth and detail to this wall and make it actually stand out a little bit more. After that, I took some needle nose pliers and I started to pick away at this, making it look old. And then I added some cracks in my sharp pencil as well on the wall. Once that was done, I started to work on rocks with my knife here and just taking chunks of the rocks and kind of just peeling them off. I also wanted to make small individual rocks, so I also just took big chunks of styrofoam and kind of just ripped them off for later. So with the ghost here, I'm just cutting out the individual sections that I marked, and then I'm going to be retracing over everything and beveling edges. I marked it on top so I could get an equal side for where this point comes down into, and then I cut off each side with an X-Acto blade. Once that was done, I started beveling the edges on each side to give it more of that ghosty look. I wanted to make an in-groove just like there was in the game on the side, so I took a Sharpie, traced it around, and then cut it out from the bottom. For this section of the Ghost, I just took my needle nose pliers and ripped it out. Didn't really know what else to do with that. Now moving on to the wings themselves, taking some cardstock paper, just a little sheet, and tracing it down so I have an exact copy for when I go and switch over to the other side. Then I just traced it out on styrofoam and cut it out as well. This is a process that you definitely need to be careful with if you are cutting towards yourself, and also it's just going to take a lot of time to really get this wing part out, so take your time with it, there's no rush. Once the two wings are done, I started to bevel the edges on both of them. After that, I took some sandpaper and just lightly scratched each area that really needed to be smoothed out, so pretty much the entire Ghost itself. And then I also did a little bit more detail work on each one of the wings. Took a piece of that cardstock paper and put it on top to add this overshield aspect to the Ghost, and I also strengthened it with some hot glue. Now for the wings, I just carefully applied them both on with some hot glue. Nothing you really have to be too worried about as long as you're not throwing this thing around. Hot glue will hold just fine. This is the middle seat area that I just had to carve out. A little bit tricky to do, but it didn't take me too long to figure it out. Once that was done, I started to work on the back piece of the Ghost where the driver normally leans up against. Also beveled the edges on that. And I attached it to the back. Also attached these other two side pieces that go on to the Ghost. Now I just started to place down some of these rocks as we get closer to the other aspect of this diorama, and I gave it all a black base coat. I also added a few more little pieces of styrofoam just around to add different variation and height on the actual diorama itself. I also gave the Ghost a black base coat as well. For the wall, dry brushing of gray all along it and also on the rocks. And those little stones we made earlier. For the Ghost, it's just simple purple overbrush, just making everything look purple and covenant. And then I'm using my favorite material as of late, Liquitex gel, to cover the entire bottom of this and give it that nice muddy texture with some paint. I get this stuff at Michael's Craft Store. It's a place in Minnesota, and it's probably in other states as well. But it works really good, and it works for a ton of different things. Snow texture, ground texture, frost, whatever you want to use it for. If you're creative, you can make it work. Took a piece of cardboard and started slowly applying that all the way down, kind of like mudding a wall if you're into construction. And then I added some grass foliage that I had from Amazon and from Bam Bam. Thank you, Bam Bam. I'm still using this stuff. Appreciate it, sir. And then I took a piece of cardboard and started to smack it all down by applying pressure into the actual Liquitex gel itself. Those small rocks we made earlier, I just started applying them down by force, and the Liquitex gel was going to keep them held in. I gave it a nice spray of watered down PVA glue. And I also dry brushed these stone walls green. Now, one thing that I normally do with dioramas is I keep everything how I think it would be, kind of like in real life, but honestly, that's just boring. So I wanted to mix it up and make it a little green and mossy and overgrown, and I think that looked way better than just a normal stone gray. Also hit it with a wash as well. For the ghost, I had some of this apple barrel metallic purple, and I just kind of slowly applied that on. Didn't really do it everywhere, just a little bit. And then I started doing some black highlighting. I wanted to do a little bit of extra work on the ghost, but not too much. For the wall, we went back with a white as a dry brush, just a little bit, corners and highlighting the corners. And then I placed a stone wall down, a few other stone pillars I made around. After that, I went outside and I spray painted some stuff that you can basically find in pillows. This is like pillow stuffing that you can get at stores. And I threw Kat on top as she was getting blown up. And then we're gonna apply the grunt that blew himself up into the back.
Alright guys, here it is the ghost, and the idea behind this was that Kat was going to hijack this ghost, and there was a grunt driving in the back, which is where you saw him right here. He got exploded. And basically the grunt had 2 sticky grenades in his hand. He blew them up right when he was going right by Kat and trying to kill her. And yeah, that was kind of my little story, and I wanted to make a really cool little diorama with a ghost, a grunt, Kat, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. Now, I did make it so the ghost can actually lift up, so this whole section of the diorama does come off, and I just have this open field for pictures and other figures and just a bunch of other stuff. I have an idea for this whole field itself, and I also wanted to be able to kind of use the ghost for more stuff as well. But I was just able to get some fuzz here that you get from like stuffing pillows and paint it and spray paint it blue, which is why my hands are kind of blue now. And then I just place it all along wherever I need to, and I can have Kat being blown up in the sky, and it's really simple to take on and off, and it's really nice actually. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. Also ring that notification bell so you know when I make new content. And let me know in the comments down below what I should be making next. I know a bunch of you want Kat's death scene. I'm still gonna probably do that here in the future. I just have to figure out how I'm gonna do it and probably go back into the cutscene and look over stuff. But I wanted to make this first, and I'm super happy with how this all came out. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys all later. Peace out.